Welcome back to a NBA Draft special edition of the Norse Benchwarmers podcast. I'm your host, Colton Smith, here joined by producer Josh Northcutt and co-host Ben Miller. We also have a special guest on the show today. Josh, I'll let you introduce him.
Yes, so I reached out to him about a month or so ago to come on the show. Logan Fulmer is a fellow Norse alum and currently a sports journalist at twsn.net, plus the co-host of The State of the Jungle, which you can watch every Wednesday on YouTube at the Sit Down 513. Logan, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm super excited. Super excited, like you said. NKU alum myself, so it's the first time ever really doing anything for them in this field, so I'm excited.
Well, again, we appreciate you coming on here. I guess first question, just tell us a little about yourself, kind of like the career path you went after you got out of NKU. Obviously, like I said, I know you from the State of the Jungle and the great work you guys do on that show.
So I graduated from NKU in December 2021. Unfortunately, I didn't get to spend too much time up there. I went for a year, and then COVID hit, and then I never went back. I just sat in my basement and did all my work and graduated as early as I could. And then after that, I went to school for social work, so totally nothing sports related at all. So then I kind of started investing and I got into coaching a lot. I coach football and basketball now at a high school. And then I was like, you know what? I saw TWSN posted a thing about needing writers. I'm like, I'm just going to do this. And then 4 years later, here I am. Now I do shows for them. I do a bunch of stuff behind the scenes for them, write a little bit still, make some videos here and there, and just kind of really do whatever. It's nice to be in the sports world and just, I think everybody kind of wants to make this into a career and just have fun with it. And that's just pretty much what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast for sure.
Yeah, no, because that's obviously what we all kind of want to go into in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've been following you and whatnot, and you followed back on Twitter, and I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just reach out to him and see if he'll come on and talk a little bit. Obviously, though, as we said, we brought you on to talk about your mock draft, and I'll just ask you right off the bat a quick question about it. How hard was it to build this mock draft? Do you watch like your own tape and figure out what teams need? Do you compare other drafts? Like, how do you go about creating your mock?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just all the draft processes are completely different for every sport. I just love the draft process and from any sport. I think it just comes back to being a kid doing fantasy drafts on every sports game there was and just kind of going from there. But with the NBA one, this year specifically, it's so weird because the Hawks kind of won the lottery somehow, and then the draft at the top is so weird anyway. But how I kind of get my opinions on these people, I use Twitter for literally everything. I love just scrolling through, getting as many opinions as possible. But then obviously you got to watch stuff on your own. You got to make your own opinion too. So I think Twitter is such a good piece of just information for anything. You can get so much information, so many different opinions, and just kind of use it to guide your thoughts that you already have, and just kind of build it from there. Team fit and stuff is different for every sport. In the NBA, it's important obviously because you can obviously only play 5. But I feel like fit doesn't matter too much at the top of the draft because it's just you just want the best player. This year, I think it matters a little bit more because the class isn't that good, and that's why I kind of went with some of the guys I did at the top of the draft. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I guess the other thing was I've seen little clips of here and there. If you could go back, because you made this about a week ago, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would change off the bat, like when you look at like the top of your draft that you think it's going to go, or?
Yeah, well, yeah. There's that whole Saar rumor and him not really like wanting to go to Atlanta, which is just so weird to me. I really don't get it. Like, I mean, he's good, obviously, but like, bro, like you're probably the worst first pick we've had in a decade. Like, I don't know why he thinks he has that ability to do that. And like, it's not like Houston's number 2 or the Spurs are number 2. Like, you really just want to go play for the Wizards? Like, I don't know. I think that's the one where I'm like, I mean, I guess I don't really believe it because he should just go first. But I think that changes a whole lot. If he doesn't go 1, because then I don't know what Atlanta would really do. And then obviously that changes what the Wizards would do, what Houston does, and it kind of creates a domino effect right away.
Yeah, and I guess that's where my next question would be. If you're the Hawks, do you just take him anyway, or do you just turn around and do you try to trade it? Because I saw the Spurs may want to go up to 1.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would obviously I'm always down to trade. I think trades are fun. But Sar fits their team. He fits what they need. He's just a good player as well. I'm not sure where that discourse really is of him not wanting to be there. I think some people said it's about him wanting to be more of a power forward, but like that stuff positions are so overblown in the NBA
Hmm.
nowadays. Like it's just go out there and play basketball. I mean, you have a gifted passer in Trae Young. You guys are gonna run the floor. You're gonna do all these fun things. Who cares if you're playing the four or the five? Um, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think I would just take him and tell him to deal with it because I don't think he'd really complain that much.
All right, fair
But
enough. All right, fair enough. I'll pass it back off to Colton, so he can kind of read down some of your lists, and we can go from there.
Yeah, when talking about Sar, I find it. I think he's a really good fit for that Hawks team, especially with his what he brings on the defensive end, because that's
yeah,
been one of their like main weaknesses
yeah.
throughout the last couple of years is their defense. I think Quinn Snyder is he still the coach of the Hawks, or did he get fired? I feel like
Uh,
Quinn Snyder's
I
still
don't know.
there.
Coaches move
Yeah,
way
they
too
move
much in
so
the NBA for me to
much.
care about them.
Right. Quinn Snyder, though, he's a guy who, built Rudy Gobert kind of. So I think he would have a field day with Sar. But yeah, I feel like looking at the top of this draft, the majority of the people are just like project players. I feel like you're
Yeah,
not going to see them immediately have an impact outside of like one part of the game, two parts of the game, perhaps. So I mean, that's how it is with Sar. You got Reed Shepard here at second, which is the highest I've seen Reed Shepard. You
yeah.
you want to
That's
you
a
want
weird
to
one,
go in
man.
on?
Like
Let's hear it.
I look at the Wizards and it's just like I don't want them to like mess up. They can't really afford just to draft another player that just sucks. To be quite honest with you, and I think Reed is just super safe.
Yeah.
I think he kind of goes into that fit they need a little bit. They need a point guard. They need a guy that can shoot the ball and distribute because they have like a bunch of 6'8" people that can do a little bit of everything, but none of them can really get their own shot.
Hmm.
So I think Reed kind of comes in and just helps that, and it really
Absolutely.
just stems back to the fact that they can't draft somebody who sucks. And I don't think Reed will suck. I don't know how great he's really going to be. He'll be a solid basketball player for a long time, and the Wizards can't keep drafting bad players.
Yeah. I'm gonna let Ben take this one because he is our resident Kentucky fan. So tell us a little bit about Reed Shepard. What do you think? What do you think he'll do in the NBA?
Yeah, I think Reed Shepard, he's going to develop well with the Washington Wizards. I can definitely see him being a catalyst to that team, so
Yeah.
that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. You got any questions?
Yeah, so I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I wanted to ask about the Spurs, if that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Spurs, obviously, they're in need with help on their backcourt. So I saw you had Steven Castle listed at number 4. How well do you feel like he can match up with Victor Wembanyama?
I just I think I don't know who's a bad fit next to Victor in
Hmm.
general. Like he's just one of those players I think can really kind of be seamless no matter where you put him. But I just think Castle's, he's going to be a defensive minded guy for a while. But he's just a little bit bigger of a guard. He can play make. He obviously needs to work on his scoring, but when you have a guy like Victor, I think, your scoring's almost going to come more naturally because you will literally never be the focus of anybody's defensive game plan for the rest of your career on the San Antonio Spurs. So I think, kind of adding a profile like that with him, just another perimeter defender, a bigger playmaker, just kind of fits right in. I think, they still need to add shooting around them if that's the direction they go. But just a good player, good upside, defensive wing, just, kind of the classic mold everybody kind of wants nowadays.
Absolutely. And one more question I have was I saw that you had Rob Dillingham, another Kentucky Wildcat,
Hmm.
listed at number 3, going to the Rockets. So how well do you feel like he can match up with Jalen Green?
See, the Rockets are another weird one. They're a
Yeah.
team they've drafted well the last several years,
Hmm.
and they just kind of have a stockpile of pretty good players. So eventually somebody's not going to be there. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be Jalen Green, but that roster is going to see some changes eventually. And I just think Rob, you look at their only like hole that they have. You're looking at that point guard position. Jalen Green's not really a true distributor. Fred VanVleet's not going to be there forever. And I love Amin Thompson a lot, but I don't love him just being as the only person, to kind of handle the playmaking duties. I think Rob fits well next to him because he is this ultra bucket getter kind of a guy. So I kind of just look at them kind of playing him and Jalen Green playing similar roles, just, once more of a traditional point guard, and they probably won't see too much time on the floor together. I think one of them, like if this is the way it would fall, kind of go into that traditional bucket getting six-man role. Um, I'm assuming rookie year that'd probably be Rob more than anybody. Jalen Green kind of stays in the starting lineup, but yeah, I think I like the fit with him next to Amin Thompson more than anything, to be honest.
And then moving on to the number 5 pick and the biggest loser of the lottery, the Detroit Pistons.
The biggest loser in general.
I mean, they
don't win much.
Talk about a team that doesn't have a head coach. And
Hey, at least they got the Lions. That's all I can say.
But so yeah, obviously Detroit Pistons. You have I'm going to be wrong when I try to pronounce his name, so I'm going to pass on pronouncing the name. I'm assuming
Zakari.
Is it Zakari?
I think.
Yeah.
Call him Zach.
Yeah, we'll call him Zach.
Fair enough. You got him going number 5. What do you see that he could bring to Detroit?
Yeah, Detroit is again. I like a lot of the younger pieces they have. They just don't really have anybody that can shoot the ball. To be honest, I think he's kind of that 3-and-D player again that the NBA is starting to love. He's the guy at the top of the board that a lot of people really like. That I just not that I don't see it with as much, but these foreign guys, these guys that play overseas, are so much harder to really get a read on, and they're all different for so many reasons. Like some of these younger kids that will just go over there and play. You're playing with grown men compared to kids your age in college. You're playing 10 minutes a game, like, and they're just dead set on going to the league. But I just think he's a good shooter. He can space the floor a little bit. He's got some size to kind of, play the 3, the 4, kind of wherever you want him to be. And that team just desperately needs somebody who can shoot the ball. I like Connect for them a lot too, just strictly because he can shoot the basketball and score the ball. But he's a little bit younger, and he can kind of just, I think, fit with that timeline a little bit more. It's kind of hard for me to justify taking a 23-year-old, which Connect would be top 5. But yeah, it's just kind of just fits what they need, and younger, still got some upside as well. But again, if the Hawks get scared of Sarr, that's some rumors that he'll be one, and
Right.
all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I've seen. A lot of the mock drafts have moved to him at number 1, going to the Hawks, which
I love it.
I just don't know about that fit as much as I like the Sarr fit with the Hawks.
I agree.
Because
It's just weird.
they got enough 3-point shooting, and I don't know how his defense will necessarily translate to start. I think he's still got maybe a little bit of ways to go from what I saw.
I think his defense. I don't want to say it gets overhyped to any degree, but when like he's a scrawnier guy. Not that means you can't be a good defender, but when you're in the NBA, if you're going to be a forward, there's so many just stocky, strong ass forwards that are just going to bully you. You can stay in front of people, but if you lose some of that switchability coming onto the big guys, which I think a lot of people are just defaultly projecting to him, which I don't. Not that he can't put on weight and be a better post defender, but I think there's more issues there than people like to give it credit for.
Yeah, and his shot, I question the consistency sometimes. Like he started the season at 47% from 3 in his first 23 games, and then ended the season like the mid to low 30s. So I question like he might have a nice hot streak to start the year and then wane off. And with young players, that's just normal. The consistency isn't going to be there on either side of the floor unless you're drafting a 23 to 24-year-old. Then you expect that. But I like him. He kind of reminds me of Franz Wagner. What do you think about that? He kind of just not necessarily a master of anything, but he can definitely develop into something. I'm saying more Franz when he first came in. Now he's a little better.
Yeah, I would say Franz has developed phenomenally. That Magic team is good, is very good. I can see that a little bit. I think he's probably got he projects, I guess, a little more of a shooter than Franz did.
Yeah.
But in the sense of, here's a guy that can do a little bit of everything, like you said. Not great at anything, solid basketball player. It's up to him what direction he's going to mold his game into, or what role he's going to play on the team, and then you can kind of see where he's going to project more going forward.
Yeah, I want to circle back to the Stephon Castle conversation because he's a guy I'm really high on out of UConn. There, you have him at number 4. I think he would be insane with the Spurs, especially because I think a lot of people overlook his playmaking. He was a great playmaker in high school. He just wasn't asked to do it as much with UConn and how their offense is run. Had Newton had the ball a lot, I would say, in that. So I think that fit with Wemby. I mean, you said it. Any fit with Wemby would be really good. I think Reed Shepherd with Wemby would be a very nice combo there. But I really like the Stephon Castle at 4 pick. But I see a world where somebody really falls in love with him and picks him up even earlier than that, possibly.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I think Castle could go two, to the Wizards. I just,
Yeah,
that's kind of
Wizards
what I
thing to do.
debated if I wanted to go Castle at two to the Wizards
Hmm.
or Reed at two. But I think Castle's kind of more of those guys that they've drafted in the past. He's kind of that Bilal Coulibaly where he's, you know, the offensive game's a question mark. We know he's
Yeah,
going to be a hustle player. He's going to be able to play defense. He's long. He's athletic. Same thing with Denny Avdia to a degree. Long, athletic, does a little bit of everything.
right.
They just need a guy who can kind of just sit, shoot, do his job, make the life easier for these people. Not that Castle can't do that. He totally can develop into that. Again, it was just
Right.
I don't think Reed Shepard's going to suck in the NBA. Like I
No.
don't see a path to where he's just bad.
Yeah.
Not that I think Castle is just gonna suck or anything, but I think the bust potential is just slightly higher than the Wizards. I'm terrified the Wizards are just gonna pick somebody terrible and then again be terrible for the next 30 years and just
Right, of
never be able
course.
to come out of it. So I just gave them probably the highest floor in this draft class and just they'll hopefully win the lottery next year.
Yeah, I think Reed Shepard could develop into like a JJ Redick type player. Like,
Yeah.
he's got the shot for it. It's just a matter
Yeah.
of, so I think he can have a nice long career as a shooter, and then it's just does the rest of the stuff. He's got good defensive instincts, obviously. So
Yeah.
it's just
And
a matter
he's
of that
somehow
translates.
led the combine in vertical jump.
Really?
I don't think. Yeah, he had the
I
highest
must have
vertical
missed
jump at the
that.
combine. So I don't think
Wow.
anybody expected that. But
No,
the Reed Shepard story is it's just kind of wild
it
because
is.
obviously I don't know if all of you are from the Kentucky or Ohio or whatever. But
Ish.
I played high school basketball here in Kentucky. I coach high
Mhm.
school basketball here in Kentucky. And we've seen people from the state of Kentucky just be good, go to UK, never play. That's kind of just what we all assumed was going to happen with Reed Shepard, another local kid that's good at basketball, going to go to UK, not really do anything.
Right.
And now he's sitting here in the lottery, and we're all just like, oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
just kind of unbelievable, seeing him play since he was a freshman and all the way up is just it's kind of unbelievable. Like I never thought we would be talking about him this high or even really in the NBA ever, but here we are.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere for sure. But you guys got anything? I've been kind of dominating the
You're
conversation
good.
here a little bit.
You're
Give me
good.
talk
You're
about
good.
the NBA. I can talk for days.
I am going to bounce around in the draft a little bit. That obviously
Okay.
was the top five, but I want to talk specifically about somebody. I'm going to steal Colton's thunder a little bit, and I apologize, Colton. Zach Edey at 12. Maybe I'm living under a rock.
That's where it's moved to.
What has happened that Zach Edey went from, okay, this guy's not going to be able to play in the NBA to, okay, this guy might have potential to now this dude's a top 12, and I've seen up to like top 10 pick.
Yeah, I don't love him much higher than this, to be honest.
Okay.
And I think the Thunder can afford to take a guy like Edey more than pretty much anybody else above them. Maybe the Grizzlies could get away with it. I think the Grizzlies could get away with it if they wanted, but again, nine's just I know it's not that much of a different pick than 12, but the Thunder, I think he's kind of climbing up draft boards because people are just starting to embrace good role players. People are starting to embrace a guy who can go give me 15 to 20 minutes a night and just be super good, super efficient in those minutes. And I think teams that have those players.
Well, it looks like we're having a little technical difficulties on the Zoom. I don't know if you can hear us, but internet might have. No, I still got internet, so
Same.
we'll continue. He was talking about Zach Edey, so obviously now I can talk for days as well while we're getting him back on there. Let me know when he comes back on. He's back. All right, we'll let you continue your conversation on Zach Edey.
I have no clue where I ended.
Yeah.
You basically said that the Thunder could take a basic role player.
Yeah, you're saying
role.
you're
Yeah.
on the role player. Yeah.
Yeah, when you have a guy that's can come in and star in a specific role for 15 to 20 minutes a night that complements the center you have or the role that you have, it's just valuable. Yes, Zach Edey's not going to be a franchise changing center. I don't
Absolutely.
think anybody should expect that, but he can come in and lead your second unit, come in, play great defense. He can complement Chet if you want to play a bigger lineup and move Chet out. Again, I think guys who can just come in, star in their role, have a specific skill set that complements your team currently, it makes a lot of sense. And I think that's the one spot really, though it just makes a ton of sense. Outside of this Thunder pick, I don't really know where he's going to go because I don't
Yeah.
think there's too many fits for him. I guess if the Lakers want to get crazy, they could maybe do it. I know they kind of want a center, but like even
Mhm.
after that, it's just weird. Like he's a weird player, but he's a good player. I don't think he's bad or anything. It's just it depends. I don't think anybody should draft him to be their franchise changing center. And if
No.
somebody does, it's probably not going to work out very well.
Well, Colton's a big Purdue fan, so I do want to get his
Purdue
take
for life.
also on the take of Edey in the pros.
Yeah, I'll say in a general sense, looking at that Thunder pick, I mean, obviously this is a team that isn't necessarily looking for a franchise-changing player.
Yeah.
They're looking for somebody to rebound the ball, be that big down low. So, like, that was the main thing that we saw in the Dallas series was Gafford, Lively. There's another one that I'm forgetting here. But those guys down low are kind of bullying Chet, bullying them. Edey can be that rock down low that can in some of these in the bench minutes, or maybe even I don't know if he could play late game. I'd have to believe it. Like as a guy who's watched Zach Edey endlessly for the past 3 years, I feel like I just have to see it to believe it in the NBA. But he definitely has the size. He gives it 100% every play. I'll give him that as well. He's not one of those bigs that just kind of gives a half effort. He's going to give it 100% through and through. And I think that Thunder pick is great. I have no idea where else he fits in the NBA, but I could see him ending up being. I see a Zubac comparison a lot. I don't know if he could really become anything more than that. I will say what doesn't get talked about enough is his free throw shot is nice, and he's got good form. I just don't know if he can turn that into an NBA jumper.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you want it to.
Yeah,
obviously,
true,
like
true.
you would want it to. Yeah, if he comes out here and shoots 35% from
Exactly.
three, you're all about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's like star in your role, man.
Mm-hmm.
Give me every rebound, contest every shot. I don't care what else you do.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's just one of those things,
Exactly.
man. Like again, role players that just know their role and don't try to do anything more are so valuable. They're so valuable. Just guys that buy in to being a role player. It like you don't see too many grown adults wanting just to come in here and just give 5 rebounds a night and that's it.
Yeah.
Everybody's in the NBA. They want to score. They want to do other stuff. I can't blame them. But
Yeah.
still, those role players that buy into the role are super important.
Yeah, especially when going for a championship like the Thunder are.
Mm-hmm.
And Logan, I saw that you had at number 25, you had Kyle Filipowski from Duke, arguably the best big man last.
Flopkowski.
Yeah, it's Flopkowski.
Flopkowski. So he was arguably the best big man in college basketball last season. What do you think he will bring to the New York Knicks, especially with that Villanova trio?
Yeah, I think Lukowski, he's a guy that I think could even kind of go earlier. He's got a wide range. It just kind of depends on how you project to play him. I mean, he can shoot the ball a little bit. He can play make a little bit. I kind of put him here assuming that Hartenstein would leave in free agency. And he's got some similar vibes to him a little bit, can play make a little bit. I think he's a little bit better shooter, a little bit worse inside. But he's just that kind of vibe of that, more of that stretch big. You can kind of handle some playmaking responsibilities a little bit. Just a little bit more of a do-it-all center like Hartenstein was. But if that's not the case, if Hartenstein stays, I'm not sure I would mock him to the Knicks, but I think he's going to end up leaving. I don't know. Maybe they're floating out Mitchell Robinson now or whatnot. But I just think Flipkowski is just a solid center, man. He's like I said, Hartenstein vibe, Kelly Olynyk to a degree. Those kind of players where he can score, he can play make a little bit. Average rebounder, maybe he gets a little better, put some muscle on, whatever. But just a solid complementary center. If you have like a bigger, stockier four that can't really shoot the ball, he can complement them pretty well, or just a solid guy, man. Just real solid. Does a little bit of everything from the center position.
Absolutely, yeah.
I want to move back up the draft order a little bit and up to number 7, where you have Ron Holland going to the Trailblazers. Ron Holland's a guy who was, like top of the class when we started this cycle, and he fell down to 7th on yours. But I've seen him bottom lottery, out of the lottery in some cases. Like, what do you think happened there? I know he's a very raw prospect. He reminds me of Nasir Little when he went there.
Yeah,
I'm not sure he has as good of a shot as Nasir, but just kind of a raw prospect that you just kind of got to push one way. But I know he's freakishly athletic. But what did you see happen there, and why do you like him on Portland?
Yeah, I think Ron's the one player that might have the widest range of outcomes in general. Because again, he was some super high recruit. He is freakishly athletic. But to be honest, the G League's just been real weird to players. There hasn't been too much like glaring success or even glaring player development going on in the G League, and I think that's probably why it's not going to be a thing anymore.
Right.
But it's just there's just so much unknown with Ron. But there's also a lot to like with Ron as well. It's just, when you didn't really see leaps in certain areas that you wanted, that, he went to the G League to do. Some teams are going to be turned off by it. Some teams are not going to care because they don't like the G League. There's just so much, up and down going on in the G League now that I think some teams won't care about it. Some teams will care about it. It's just going to kind of depend where he goes. But just the fit with the Blazers, I just kind of took it as the Blazers trying to hit a home run here. And we
Yeah.
talked about the upside is certainly there with them. I like some of the players, maybe under him a little better, but the Blazers just kind of need some more exciting, some more hope, some more upside.
Yeah.
And I think they've been kind of guard heavy the last few years, obviously with Scoot, and they still have Simons and Sharp and all these guys. So just a defensive guy at the very least. Holland is gonna projects to be pretty above average defensively.
Yeah.
At the wing position, forwards, however you want to play them. And I just think they could use that. The upside's there everywhere else, but at the worst, they can use a wing defender with some crazy athletic ability, which they clearly love because everybody on their team is freakishly athletic. So I just, a little bit of everything there with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say the Blazers could be a little hesitant, though, because of the last G League player they got. I mean,
Yeah.
Scoot's still got ways to go, but I could see
Yeah.
them being a little more hesitant after you were saying some teams might be turned off. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. The G League, I was really excited about it. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
were, but it's just, I don't know, man. It's shutting down for a reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know too much about it. Like there hasn't been too many, like I said, successful development stories there. Like nobody's gone to the G League and looked so much better the time that they've come out of the draft. Like Scoot would have been the second, third pick regardless of where he went. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
so I don't read into him too much, but he also came out and struggled. So it's just. It's a weird thing. I had higher expectations for it than what it turned out to be.
Right.
So, speaking of guards who kind of let down a little bit, 22 Phoenix Suns Isaiah Collier. He was projected potentially number one pick, like way back in his
Long time ago.
in his recruiting process. Obviously, being a Bearcat fan, was hoping he'd come to UC. Obviously, didn't stay out there in California at USC. What do you think he could be at the pro level? Like, is he one of those like Phoenix Suns type steals kind of thing, and we're looking at him and Booker being really good together, or is he just not really going to come to form?
Yeah, I mean, I just love the fit with the Suns. The Suns just need a playmaking point guard so bad.
Mhm.
I've never understood the Bradley Beal addition and so many things, but yeah, I think this is a perfect kind of combination of need, potentially best player available, and upside all coming together for the Suns. Obviously about 6'3", he's nothing crazy, but he was pretty good. I mean, going to USC is always a weird decision for people. I mean, like it's in every sport. Every USC they'll get a couple 5 stars here and there, and they'll go and they'll be whatever, but they're still good. I think Collier is one of those guys. I mean, 16 points a game last year, just about 5 assists, passing to nobody else that's gonna be drafted. Bronny will be drafted, but they didn't really play on the court together too often. It's just, I don't know. USC wasn't the best position to really showcase his skills
Mhm.
too much. There's so much upside there still with him. It just kind of depends on what kind of player he's going to want to be in the NBA. I love the Phoenix fit because it kind of makes him into that pass first point guard, which I think, like I said, they need. And I think a guy like him could benefit from more because he's not forcing a shot as much anymore. He's not going out there and just, I need to score, I need to score, I need to score. The buckets will come easier to him and he'll kind of find his flow a little bit better. I just really love the fit with Phoenix, to be honest.
Fair enough. And then I think we all got one more question for you, if that's okay. Since
Oh, yeah.
since you
They're
brought up Bronny, and this is going to be the Bronny draft that everybody's talking about.
Bronny draft.
Notice Bronny wasn't on your draft. So my question is, what do you think ends up happening? Because I've seen Obviously, man, the Boston Celtics rumor that Bill Simmons came up with. I don't know if you
That was
saw
crazy.
that. Maybe horrible wording. Maybe horrible wording. But man, if I was the Celtics, I'd consider it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like, man, what a shitty thing to do. But then you think about it, and you're like, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. But bro, I don't know, man. Like, I get why Bronny gets all the hate, because he's an average prospect in general. His dad's, LeBron James, but I think he'll be fine. I don't think he's going to be some great NBA player, but I think he can be, a backup point guard, a guy like a great defensive minded. We see so many defensive minded point guards just make a living in the NBA. It's just going to be all about how his offensive game develops in any degree at all. He hasn't really shown any of that ever, and that doesn't mean it's not necessarily going to come. But it's the team he goes to, I think, will impact a lot for him, and which is why it annoys me so much that they only want him to go to this team, that team. Like, if his draft board was completely open, I would have way more hope of him developing into a prospect. But when you just have him, he's only going to play for the Lakers, the Knicks, these big market teams, like the chances of him developing in those situations, I don't think is as successful than if he went to, just a team where he could just be himself and just actually learn and develop and play basketball and not just kind of like have that notion of him being there because he's LeBron's kid. There's so many wide range of outcomes for him. I think he ends up being a solid backup point guard for a few years, decent rotational piece, but until we see anything offensively, it's kind of hard to, see the upside per se.
Yeah, and for me, I would love the Spurs personally. Just what you described it, a coach who can like teach him. Obviously, Pop isn't going to just throw him out there to throw him out there. He'll play him when he's ready. So, Ben, you got a question?
Yeah. So, speaking of the Spurs, I saw at number 8 you had Dalton Knecht, who was arguably the best SEC player last season with Tennessee. So, what do you like about his game, and how do you think he'll develop in San Antonio if he's selected there?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite fits in the draft. To be honest, bro, like I said, when you have Wemby who can just play make, he can see over everybody. He's gonna, draw 2, draw 3, draw 4. You know what I mean? He's just a freak. And just having a guy that you can just, at the worst, just sit in the corner and shoot threes at a high clip and be very efficient is phenomenal. I mean, they have Keldon Johnson, average shooter. Devin Vassell, good player, decent shooter. Like, they just need some more consistent shooting on the perimeter. And just, as soon as you have a guy like that walk in and just, again, pair with a guy like Wemby, and then like I did, like Stephon Castle, I love that fit as well. That, like, the Castle and Connect is a dream start to the draft if it's for me for San Antonio. Just a phenomenal scorer, man. Just a guy. Wemby can make up for any defensive lapses he's gonna have. That's why you have him. That's why he's so good. Just a phenomenal scorer that can just make you pay for doubling Wemby and doing all these things, and just, having a guy that can shoot 40% from 3 with a big that can do everything in the world is just it's a great combo. It's a great combo.
Definitely, for sure.
So I'm just going to ask you to look towards the bottom of your draft board, maybe the bottom of the first round or in the second round. Who are some guys you think could end up being steals in the NBA that aren't necessarily getting that talk, but you saw something out of them?
Yeah. Well, I had this guy in the first round, but I want to bring him up a little bit too. Baylor Shireman from Creighton, I like a whole lot. He's really old. He's gonna be 24,
right?
I believe, when the year starts. But just one of those guys, similar to Connect, but less shooting and more playmaking. He's just, I have him going to the Cavs here. He's just going to be a great connector for a team that, has good bigs, has good guards, and just kind of needs just another little piece to fill in that can play multiple roles. But I think outside of guys in round 1, I think Ryan Dunn is super interesting.
Yes.
I just always have to bring him up because he can guard anybody in the world right now, tomorrow. But I don't know if he can make a jump shot ever in his life.
Yeah.
So it's like, if he develops into an
Ntilikina.
average scorer, like, he will be phenomenal.
Yeah.
But there's probably a reason he hasn't ever yet. That's another one of those teams where it's like, hopefully he goes to a team where he can develop a little bit, and not really be forced into playing too much. He's another guy I could see kind of Phoenix playing into at 22. Just, we got so many people who can score the ball. We ain't got nobody who wants to play lick of defense. Ryan Dunn come in here and just guard whoever the team's best player is. That's not going to help his offensive game ever. but it's going to help Phoenix win games.
Hmm.
But I think my favorite, like, I didn't have him in this mock. I probably would have had him if I did another one right before. But Jonathan Mogbo from San Francisco is phenomenal. I tweeted about him yesterday. Um, about 6'7", 6'8" guy. Just can't Another guy that can't really shoot, but I believe he was second in the NCAA in dunks. He's just a big tempo pushing forward that rebounds ball, goes. He's got great vision for the size. Um, I just really I love, I know people hate him, but I love like the Draymond Greens of the
Yeah.
world that just
No, I
are
know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
bigs that play defense, can play make, and just finish. Like he's another guy that a contending team's gonna love. He's gonna rebound, he's gonna guard, he's gonna push the floor, he can pass the ball very well for his size. He just does a little bit of everything besides really shooting the ball. I think he's similar, I guess a comparison kind of is like a Ben Simmons kind of vibe for him, but like more, I don't want to say more current Ben Simmons. That's not very good, but
Yeah.
not the great Ben Simmons either. Kind of like that middle ground of Ben Simmons. You're like, okay, this is a solid player. He just has to stay healthy. He kind of reminds me a lot of that, but probably more athletic. Like I said, I believe he was second in the NCAA in dunks behind Zach Edey, and he's 6'6". So he's just an amazing finisher for his size. A
Yeah.
guy that can, I love a big that can play make. To be honest with you, I really do. So I think he's kind of one of my favorite. I like Harrison Ingram too. We were talking, you guys were kind of talking about him a little
Attaboy.
bit before we hopped on here.
Got
I'm
some
a big
brownie
fan of
points.
these high effort guys that rebound. Like rebounding is one of the few things that really translates in the NBA because it's an effort thing. Nobody in the NBA wants to rebound. If you can have a guy that come in here and just flies around, I mean, like there's no reason Josh Hart should average 12 rebounds a game in the playoff. None whatsoever.
Just pure heart.
It is, like, and it's like it feels like embarrassing to say that it's just like hustling and sounds so cliche and just boring, but it's really true. Like if you want to rebound, you're gonna go rebound. So
Mhm.
I like Harrison Ingram a lot as well. There's a few other guys that are okay. Like AJ Johnson's a guy we kind of talked about him, not directly, but he was a
Yeah.
5-star, went to play overseas, didn't really do anything, and he was
Right.
like, F it, I'm just gonna declare for the draft still. Like
Yeah.
that was my whole plan always.
Hmm.
Um, he could end up being really good, or he can end up sucking. I
We,
know a lot
we
of
may
people
never
like
talk
Dylan
about him
Jones
again.
as
Yeah, I
well.
like Dylan Jones. I like him a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I haven't watched too much Dylan Jones, but I've read a lot of good things about him.
Yeah.
He's kind of like David Roddy a little bit from a few years ago, Colorado
Yeah.
State.
Yeah.
Good player.
That's a great comparison.
It's just you gotta. He's a unique guy. What position are you gonna play him at? Who are you gonna surround him with? Good player, really good player. It's just when you're 6'4",
Yeah.
you're listed as a forward. You got either you're not a forward or just you got to not going to be a very good forward. Probably just be like a 3 or a 2, and just kind of go into that vibe of thing. I really like this class, to be honest. I think
Mhm.
this class gets a lot of shit just for the top of the board. But the back half of this draft is still as good as it is year in and year out. I won't
Yeah.
argue with you that the top of the draft is great or
Yeah.
anything, but it's still really deep. There's still plenty of good players throughout. Um, I don't have a problem with it. I get the issues at the top again, but I don't think it's any less deep than it is in more years. I think it might even be more deep than normal years. I just feel so terrible because the top of the draft isn't very. I don't want to say it's not very good. It's just not typical top of the line first, second, third overall picks. But there's still good players up there. They're just not no real franchise, no people you should expect to change
Right.
your franchise really in this draft. Maybe outside of SAR.
So I'm gonna lie and say I do have one more question. Actually, I apologize.
good.
I'm
Go
gonna
right
put you.
ahead.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Rookie of the year. Who's it gonna be? Yep, on the spot. And he froze.
He froze.
Oh, there,
there,
he's back,
he
he's
is.
back.
He's back.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of it.
Oh,
I
okay.
heard I got
Yeah,
one more
so-
question and then
Yeah. One
Yeah,
more question.
It
and
froze up
silence.
again. So yeah, no. So one more question. On the spot. Rookie of the year. Who's it gonna be?
Ooh, I'm trying to think of fit players.
Harrison Ingram will get you back on the show anytime you want. By the way.
Harrison Ingram.
He said it, guys.
He did. In fact,
I
yeah.
really, man, it's tough. I kind of like Dalton Connect's odds to be Rookie of the Year, just
Yeah.
because he's probably going to go to a place where he can score a lot at the beginning. And when you're looking at some of these other people, like I think he's the first. I mean, Sar, I want to say, but that's too obvious. And then like if Reed goes the top few picks, he's not really going to be in a position to do too much. Same thing with Rob necessarily. I think whoever San Antonio picks kind of has a chance. That's why I kind of like Connect as well. I think Connect's just the first person that comes in and has the opportunity to score a lot. Like that's why you're drafting him to score. So I
Hmm.
think the rookie of the year numbers this year aren't probably going to be what they see um, from the numbers in the past. But I think he's the one that can kind of come in and score 12, 15 points a night on an average to below average team, and he's gonna walk into a role right away, no matter where he goes, because that's what you do when you draft a 23-year-old this high in the draft. You don't draft a 23-year-old to not play him, to not give him opportunity. He could go to the Pistons and just again shoot threes. He can kind of do the same thing, like I said, in San Antonio. I think that's if I had to guess right now, I think that's who I would go with.
I actually like that, and the explanation makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
Definitely,
Like that guy's going to put up buckets wherever he goes.
Yeah.
So
'Cause, like, I don't think he's like the best player, obviously,
no,
but I just because like Castle, he's gonna go and he's gonna play great defense wherever he goes.
right.
Do people really care about that in Rookie of the Year votings?
No.
I don't know.
It's
Maybe.
typically just whoever scores the most points. It seems like, unless you're Wemby and you just do everything.
Yeah, and I think there's some fits that have opportunities. Like the Blazers haven't really had anybody kind of develop into the guy there.
Yeah.
Maybe if a rookie goes there and kind of gets hot a little bit, or like some of these big market teams, kind of like the Sixers, Heat, Lakers in that 15, 16, 17 range, if they draft a guy that can kind of come in and like make an impact for them right away, just because they're big market teams, they'll be agenda pushing that out the ass. You know what I mean? So like I could see one of those, whoever they take, especially the Lakers. If the Lakers draft anybody that is productive, they'll act like they're the best player in the world. So
I'll put you on the spot. You think LeBron's coming back to LA?
I think so. I think so. I don't. I would like to, once they hire JJ Redick, assume that was kind of the
Yeah,
vibe. As
right.
weird as that sounds, but
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's
I think that was like, okay, we'll hire him. You're gonna stay. We'll figure out the rest. But I don't know. I don't know. The Lakers are in a weird spot. I don't mind them by any means, but they're like obsession with keeping Austin Reeves for anything is weird to me. Like you need somebody else on that team to be good.
yeah.
Not that he's not good, but like
No.
you need somebody else. Just do it. You got one more year of LeBron, 2 more years of LeBron. I don't know why they're not just literally pushing everything into the next couple of years.
Yeah,
Weird.
yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how that whole show works. Well, they call them Showtime.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be a show this year. But I think that's all we got for the draft today. So thank you so much for coming on. It was a blast having you on, talking some NBA draft. Where can our viewers find you though? On Twitter, wherever.
Yeah, I love Twitter. My obsession with Twitter is dangerously bad. But my Twitter handle is just FVLMER. It's my last name Fulmer, just with a V instead of a U, because the other one was taken. But
Yeah.
yeah, all my stuff's on Twitter. All my articles, all my videos, I'll link there. But that's it. Again, big Twitter advocate, as I said numerous times. So that's all I'm at, really.
Yeah. Well, once again, thanks for coming on, Logan. Hopefully, maybe another time, come back.
Yeah,
Talk some
absolutely.
more
I'm always
sports?
down. Always down.
All right. I'll hold you to that. So,
Yeah.
yep. Thank
Yeah,
you
'cause
all.
I need that Bryce Young take, by the way. I need that Bryce Young take.
We did briefly mention it in our other show
Like
we
Bryce
recorded today. Yeah.
The Panthers were bad last year, guys. They were really bad.
Yeah.
They were really
Hey,
bad.
he didn't do him any
Really
favors
bad.
though.
No, he didn't. We'll save that for another day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
save that for another day. We'll have plenty of time to talk some football. But thank you all for watching. Thank you to our co-host and Garrett. I don't even know if we mentioned Garrett today. He didn't have a camera, so shout out Garrett over there, and the director's doing God's work. He's been working hard today.
He is. He's working hard.
He's working hard. So huge shout out to Garrett back there. Thank you, Bill and NKU Media Services, for all that you do getting this Zoom meeting set up. That was a blast working on that yesterday, and then getting that done today. So be sure to follow us, subscribe to us, leave a like if you guys enjoyed. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. And you need to reorder this.
Yeah, I
I'd mess it
gotcha.
up again. So back to YouTube. At 100 subscribers, we will be giving our first giveaway. So be sure to subscribe so you can be a part of that. And yeah, that's all I got. So we will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.